lot of the work that we're doing is connecting with the younger generation, so younger customers, and using new platforms like Roblox, new mediums like AR to shorten that distance between inspiration and commerce. So again, meeting customers where they are online, inspiring them to make purchases, and sometimes that inspiration happens through meaningful engagement.
We're back again, Gen Z. I think for our audience, I just want to say, one, we're in the 80 something episode. We both love doing this show. It's been a journey and an arc. And I do think that there is something about the fact that we just get to talk to all of these brands who are building on emerging technology, building in game worlds, building on the blockchain, using AI. It's something that is so inspiring to me every day. And I just keep having more and more conversations that just tells me that this is a valuable conversation. So I just wanted to say thank you for being an amazing co-partner in that.
Aw, thank you, Sam. Thanks for this opportunity. This is so fun. It's really something I look forward to every week. Keeps me fresh, gets to talk to a bunch of smart people. What a fun way to spend an hour. And we have such a great community of listeners. So thank you, listeners, for being a part of this.
Absolutely. Avery, I saw on Twitter the other day that Mr. Beast was saying if he was old enough that he was going to jump into the presidential race. Don't know if he was actually serious about it, but it made me wonder, and I wanted to get your opinion on, brands often align themselves to causes, to movements. I feel like elections are one of the areas that like brands either need to make a decision whether they're going to get involved or stay out. You guys work with so many brands. What would your recommendation be for how to avoid or jump into the election conversation, especially in 2024?
Yeah, plenty of them make donations to various political parties. I think from a marketing perspective, I can't think of a single client of ours who's getting in the mix on election conversation in this cycle. Unless maybe it's a joke or something, but like even then it's just so hypersensitive. The risk of cancel culture is so real right now. And I think people often don't realize for big brands, like if you're a Fortune 500 company, you've got a lot to lose. So yeah, like sure, you can have a funny tweet, but what about if that tweet goes to the wrong people and you get like majorly canceled because of it? We've all seen situations happen that lead to boycotts from very big brands doing something that they probably thought wasn't that big of a deal. So I think that the corporate temperature on participating in election dialogue is pretty low on the marketing team's interests. But I want to hear your take because like maybe you're like, oh, okay, like this is an opportunity for brand leadership or for stepping in. I think that sometimes things like, for example, the Israel-Palestine conflict, sometimes brands have done various things to support specific initiatives. They're more with a charitable angle, I think, and a more philanthropic and human rights angle, and usually I feel like they try to stay away from politics. But tell me what you think.
I think, it's interesting because I think you mentioned we saw in the last couple of years on the right a kind of like, let's not go to Disney because of the issues happening in Florida and with DeSantis. On the left, we saw there were some issues around what they believe was perceived support for Israel, and a lot of people were boycotting Starbucks for that. So I do agree that taking a stance on either side has payback often, and especially in a very polarized world. And it's very unpredictable. So I'm with you on that. Where I think there's something interesting, in New York, there's like Manhattan Mini Storage, which always does very tongue-in-cheek advertising. And I can imagine them saying something around the fact of like, whatever, putting all the skeletons in your storage unit instead of your closet, or so, there's stuff there that I think you could have a humorous take on. I wonder if there's some play around the fact that both of these candidates are quite old. So is there a youth play? Is there a longevity play that someone is going to come out with? But I'm kind of with you. I would not touch this election, especially this one with a 10-foot pole. At this point, I just don't think there is any true brand opportunity that's going to long-term be worth the challenge.
It would have to be a very unique case where you're like, hey, this is like a brand who's like, it just has a completely disruptive personality and perspective. And where I'm just brainstorming right now, but I feel like someone like a challenger brand, like a Liquid Death might be able to unite people with the fact that so many people in America think this is ridiculous. They might be able to unite that without taking a political stance themselves, more bringing people together of like, what did I just witness?
I love that. I think that is actually a very smart take, which is don't play the left or right game, just play like the how did we get here, and let's try to come together. Especially as we've seen across the
I
world,
can
a lot
imagine
of
like the Duolingo owl being like, I'll run for president. Like, I get it. Something like that could be funny. It's only a few brands can play in that space. If you're a bank, you're no freaking way is that tweet getting approved.
I'm with you. Okay, great. So irreverence may work, but partisanship doesn't, I guess, here. Avery, the next thing I wanted to ask you about, yet again, we just saw this past week, Doja Cat's Twitter account got hacked. Sydney Sweeney's account got hacked yet again and trying to sell stuff. I think I look at this through the idea that we are getting more and more vulnerable to, especially with like advanced technologies and AI, that like we have no real sense of privacy in that our accounts are just frankly super vulnerable to being hacked these days. And we follow people who have millions and millions of followers, and they can't seem to protect themselves, right? From the sort of most serious politicians to a performer like Doja Cat. And yes, you would think people are smart enough to say if she suddenly starts talking about a crypto meme coin that it's probably not legitimate, but they also would have thought the same thing probably with Jason Derulo 2 weeks ago. And he actually was coming out with a meme coin that he's now had to kind of walk back his involvement in. It begs the question for me of this future state where we need to prove that it's us when we put things out into the world, like kind of this proof of humanity. Because I just think like your password's never going to be good enough as computing gets better. So is there an approach that you think celebrities need to take, or is there anything that we can really do against these attack vectors where we're all being attacked? And then secondly, because of the personalities of yourself or Gary or the brands that you're working with, you've talked on the show about how you've been targeted. Should the public be more trained to not trust everything they're seeing? And what does that do to erode trust in social media?
I do think the public is getting more trained. And even in those examples, like some people are like, this is a scam. They'll share that, they'll comment that. So I do think that consumers are more and more informed because this type of thing happens all the time. In terms of accounts getting hacked, it does seem to happen on certain platforms more. Like that very rarely happens to celebrities on Instagram, for example. Like I can think of just a handful of times when I've seen that happen. It does seem to happen a lot on Twitter/X, a lot. And there are theories that there's a way that this happens time and time again. But I think it's partially on the platforms as well to ensure that they're protecting these accounts. And of course, it's on users to ensure they're scanning everything, and it's on the people of influence to set up appropriate security systems. It's ridiculous how many times you see somebody who got hacked and they're like, oh, I use the same password for everything. It's like, well, it's 2024. You can't do that anymore, especially if you're a person of influence. Like you need to get your LastPass and you got to get all that stuff to protect yourself. I think that like personal digital security, personal cybersecurity is a huge opportunity for business because people have a lot to lose with so much of their lives being online. And we could do a whole podcast on this, but there are a lot of companies that are trying to tackle that problem for individual consumers because of either hacks, identity theft, et cetera, these things that happen through, primarily digital platforms. So it is a problem. I don't have the great solution yet, but we keep seeing it on there's some repeat offender platforms that I think really need to get their acts together on it.
You're correct. And I will say that, and this was brought up multiple times, but with X, when they sort of really pushed people subscribing, they took away the two-factor authentication from the normal subscriber. You had to pay in order to get two-factor authentication, which I thought was such a wrong move because it only hurts their platform when people get
Messed
hacked.
up.
Yeah. So it's definitely a challenge. All right, Avery, the last thing I want to talk to you before we get to our great guest today is I saw there's an article, I think it was in the New York Times in the last couple of days, about these creators who started making their own products like sunscreens and soaps and all of that stuff. And they are very popular social media channels. And then it turns out the products don't work very well and actually might be harmful. But there was kind of this DIY culture of TikTok of like, oh, I could just make this instead of going to the store and buying it. And then people start doing the same thing. It made me wonder about the idea that I love the idea of creator products. When we had like Sean from Kajabi on, like talking about how there's all these ways that creators can really make authentic products out there. There's a lot of folks who want to work with creators for licensing, like when we talked to Jess from Shopify. There's a lot of ways to do it in a smart way to build your own brand and business. But there is a lot of creators sort of coming up with their hacks and then utilizing that as a way to create a new brand when they don't think about the fact that so much of the product we use every day is tested is really validated. So I wanted to get your thoughts on what do you think the arc of like creator-led products are, and then we'll cue that into our next guest who probably has some opinions too.
I think we're following a bit of the DTC trend of the, 2014 era of you see some, it works for some people, you see it works for Feastables, you see it works for Chamberlain Coffee, and then you see suddenly everyone has their own chapstick line and sunscreen line and whatever. Some of them are good, and I don't want to discount these creator products because some of them are really good and they are working with like leaders in the space to create them. Not everybody's Kim Kardashian who's going to launch the next Skims, right? But people use examples like that to be inspired to create their own products. I think we're also seeing this creatorpreneur archetype, and creators, yes, they're like social media first. They understand how to engage an audience and they can understand how to sell product. And the creators who are primarily relying on brand deals are like, wait, I'm just getting paid this check versus if I can create my own thing that is often tied to their own personal passions, you can really amplify your revenue streams. So I think that there are a lot of studios that are designed to help these creators launch products. And these are like kind of mini agencies. It's like the VC people who are good at social and they're like, great, let's follow this formula. The reality is the formula doesn't work for everyone. You've got to be a person who has a great community, who's engaged, who you can sell things to, because sometimes you can have a hugely engaged community and that doesn't mean they're going to want to buy your rosé. But then some people, like it was the Fat Jewish, he actually launched a rosé that like did really well. That happens sometimes. That doesn't happen all the time. And now we just see so many of them. That's the other thing that's like the first few, it was like, this is cool. Like, let's support my favorite creator. Sometimes it's really aligned to what they're trying to sell. We see a lot of like the fashion girlies launching their own clothing lines, but plenty of them are not successful. So there is a formula. It is interesting. I am all for the creatorpreneurs, but it is not a sure thing that it's going to work.
All right. So you got to be careful when you're launching your next product. I might put mine on hold, but we are going to ask our next guest. Our guest this week is Justin Breton. Justin is the Director of Brand Experience and Strategic Partnerships at Walmart. Walmart has been doing an amazing amount of work in everything from partnering with NFT brands to working in Spatial and Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft and almost all the virtual platforms out there. They have a ton of creator programs. They've been launching a lot of really cool retail opportunities. So this is a great way to cue into Justin Breton, who's going to be here right after the break.
Justin, welcome to Generation C. We are so excited to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy summer. Glad to see you guys again. Excited to chat.
I like that we're all wearing white. I mean, Justin has some blue also, but
I know I missed
this feels like this is like a Hamptons like session right now that we're doing.
South of France chic with Justin Breton, also known as Justin Breton. Justin, can you introduce yourself to the Gen C audience? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Yeah, of course. So Justin Breton, or Breton, I oversee all of our digital and emerging experiences at Walmart. And what that really means is identifying new ways to engage with customers where it's outside of the traditional four walls of Walmart. And by four walls of Walmart, I don't just mean the brick and mortar store. I mean outside of our website, outside of our app, and really providing them with moments of surprise and delight. It's a win for my team when someone has that sort of moment of, wow, I can't believe that this is Walmart. Or, wow, this is so cool that Walmart's doing this. And so what we're doing as a team is looking for opportunities to engage with customers meaningfully on platforms where they're spending their time. So we like to say we meet customers where they are online. A lot of the work that we're doing is connecting with a younger generation, so younger customers, and using new platforms like Roblox, new mediums like AR to shorten that distance between inspiration and commerce. So again, meeting customers where they are online, inspiring them to make purchases, and sometimes that inspiration happens through meaningful engagement. And so hopefully we can talk about some of the work that the team is doing today, but that's me in a nutshell. So brand experiences and fun ways to shift the hearts and minds of the next generation of consumers.
Justin, first of all, thank you also for coming to Consensus this year. It was great having you there. And one of the things that you spoke about there, which I thought was really inspiring, was just the idea of kind of these metaverse experiences. And you're on Lori Keith's session, really talking about also like being socially responsible within those metaverse experiences. I know you've done some great gaming opportunities and you've been in created some metaverse stuff we'll talk about in a bit. You did a partnership with like Pudgy Penguins and some NFT projects. How do you start in your approach to innovation when you look at these? Is this about positioning Walmart as innovative, or is this about trying to connect with different audiences? Like, what's the ethos around innovation and emerging tech for Walmart?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of everything. I often will talk about this, just sort of like the evolution of how brands, specifically brands like Walmart, are driving commerce. So if you think back 25, 30 years, brands had brick and mortar locations, they created websites. Websites were destinations that people would go to where they would read about a brand's purpose, they'd read about hours, but it was a place that you would go to learn more about a brand. That then evolved to include commerce. Then came social media. Brands created social media channels where they would engage with customers, they would share information. That evolved. Now it includes commerce. Social commerce is something that I think we're all very familiar with. We're all talking about it in different mediums. And what comes next? And to us, it's immersive commerce. And so as we think about the landscape of the internet and the metaverse and what's on the horizon, to us, it is platforms like Roblox and Minecraft and Fortnite. It is technology like AR and VR, where collectively all of these things are giving purpose and reasons to engage with brands in new and different ways. But those new and different ways, while they might be nascent to us, are not nascent to Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And so when we think about the opportunity for Walmart and engaging with that next generation of consumer, it very much goes back to what I said earlier, which is meeting them where they are. And we know that Gen Z is spending 2+ hours a day on platforms like Roblox. That is a lot of time. And when you compare time spent on platforms like Roblox to time spent on platforms like TikTok and Instagram, or even streaming platforms like Netflix and Hulu, 2.5 hours a day, it's a lot of time. And so it's important for brands like Walmart to be there and to drive meaningful engagement and to test new ways to drive engagement. And of course, we introduced real world commerce on Roblox, so new ways to drive commerce. And so for us, it's a little bit of everything. It's about being an innovative retailer. It's about being an adaptive retailer. But through all of that, by doing it now, while it feels nascent, we're also learning. And I think by learning early and testing, and some of the things that we've tested have not worked, we are hopefully setting ourselves up for a very successful future as these things become more familiar to more people. And so I'm proud of the work the team has done. And I think we're in a good place to keep testing and learning. And hopefully collectively all that we do delivers on this notion of Walmart being the most adaptive retailer and us being everywhere, not just down the street at a brick and mortar location.
I love that, Justin. And I also love that you just called out that you're trying a bunch of things and some things really work and some things, not so much, but it's all with this idea of building for the next generation of consumers wherever they are. You all have done some really interesting linking to real world commerce, which I want to get more into a little bit later. But maybe can you give us some highlights of things that you have learned in the last couple of years when you've been in this leadership role in the innovation group?
Yeah, I mean, I think like one of the biggest learnings as it relates to platforms like a Roblox or a Minecraft or a Fortnite is it's not about when you talk about the individuals that are spending 2.5 hours a day on that platform, it's not an audience, it's a community. It is a community of people that are incredibly passionate about the platform. They're incredibly passionate about the IP that exists on that platform. Again, whether it be Roblox or Minecraft or Fortnite. And so what we learned very early on in our foray onto the Roblox platform is we are engaging with a community, and it is a community that has a point of view on how brands should show up, on what brands actually add to the platform. And because it's a community, you should invite the community into the process in terms of what is it that Walmart can actually provide that adds meaningful value to deliver on that goal of driving meaningful engagement. What is it that's going to actually drive ritualistic behavior where you want to engage with Walmart on a regular basis? Like, how do we make sure that what we're doing is actually additive to the platform? And so one of the biggest learnings around these emerging platforms is that you are engaging with communities, not audiences. And I think that completely changes the way in which you think about marketing, you think about showing up, you think about the long-term opportunity. And so that, I think, was something we learned very early on with our foray onto Roblox, because it was a community-led initiative that the community didn't really resonate with, and they were very vocal about it. And I always used to like joke, which I don't know if it's a good joke or not, but I was like, oh, I feel like I'm reading an issue of Us Weekly about what I'm wearing, because like all of this content online was like Walmart this, Walmart that. And like, it was a mix of the good, the bad, the ugly, but it like collectively led us to where we are today. And so that was a test that gave us all of these learnings that led us to, as of today, we've got one of the highest rated brand experiences on Roblox. Like, we would never have gotten to that place having not tested, learned, optimized, and basically said, hey, like, let's try this differently. Let's sunset Walmart Land and let's introduce Walmart Discovered. Not that Walmart Land was bad. It's just, it didn't deliver on all the objectives that we identified. And so I think community was like probably my biggest learning and takeaway, and one that like we continue to lean into in all that we do in this
But you're owning
space.
it so much. You're like, okay, it's a journey. Here's what we learned. Here's where we are now. And now we're at the top of our game. But you're saying this in such a humble way that, really signals, I'm sure, to the community and either even to other marketers that this is something it's a journey. It's an evolution. Like what it
Totally.
is today, it won't be tomorrow.
100%. And I even think like we lean into this notion of like community and in other mediums that we're exploring and other platforms. And I think it's also really important to know that like the community on the Roblox platform is going to be very different than the community on the Minecraft platform. The consumer of AR who is 15 is very different than the consumer who is 25 that's using AR, and 35 and 45. And so it's going to probably, to your point, continue to evolve. And it is so important for us to sort of recognize the fact that some of the things that we want to continue testing might not work. But because we're embracing this idea of everything we do is to test, to learn, to optimize, means that because we're doing it early, hopefully we, again, continue to remain at the forefront and are setting ourselves up for success in the future as this technology and these platforms continue to evolve and grow.
Justin, one of the things that I love about the Walmart Discovered project is something that Avery and I started talking about months ago, which was there's a stat out there that about $50 billion a year are being spent in digital assets, right? Skins, guns, whatever it may be to help play your game, cars. But I kept thinking about this audience. I have a daughter who grew up playing games, and that how would we think of exactly as you mentioned that the idea of real world purchasing in just game environments and sort of the immersive commerce you talked about. And with Discovered, I mean, the idea that you guys are dropping real world items into digital worlds and using that digital twin layer versus trying to say, hey, we do something completely different in our Roblox experience or spatial experience than we do in store, I think is where all of this stuff needs to go. You need to be able to, in the BMW world, mod the car that you want to mod in real life versus the thing that flies and doesn't do the things in real life. And so I guess I would love a little bit if you could go deeper into the idea of bringing actual items in, because I think most people don't think I want to buy just the $10 t-shirt that I could get at Walmart, but actually that may be the gateway into a commerce layer that people 5 years from now are going to say, why didn't we think of that?
Yeah, I mean, with real world commerce on Roblox, it was really important to us to introduce it through the lens of the community. So again, going back to that insight and that learning that like the community plays such an important role in what's happening on that platform, discovery on that platform, recommendations on that platform. To me, like the community and those that are the names and faces that people are looking to, who create virtual items that people are buying or creating and developing these experiences that are beloved by the community, like they are the influencers on that platform. They are the people who are creating videos on YouTube that hundreds of thousands of people are watching to get a sense of like, what is the trending new virtual item that I need in my avatar, or the new experience that I must go play with my friends. And so with real world commerce in Walmart Discovered, we tapped 3 members from our community to choose a product from Walmart.com. We gave them a short list of products that were driven by insights and data. So like socially driven products, bestsellers on Walmart.com, all with the intent, of course, of the community that we're engaging with. So Gen Z, a younger demographic, and said, choose a product that resonates with you as an individual and your persona on this platform, and then create a virtual twin of that item that is not a replica, but it is a virtual twin that very much aligns with who you are as, again, an individual and your persona on this platform. And so we have 3 creators who, again, are the names and faces that the broader Roblox community looks to and trusts for recommendations of products, virtual items, etc., and allowed them to create these virtual items that allowed us to introduce commerce in a way that was through the names and faces of people they trust, but also they're buying a physical good and they're getting a limited edition virtual twin for their avatar. And we know that self-expression on Roblox is so important to these individuals that it changes their mindset about why they might buy a physical item. And so it allowed us to introduce commerce in a way that felt very native to the platform. It didn't feel overly commercial. It felt very thoughtful. And I mean, maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but it was very much, done in a way that hopefully gives us, again, like the right learnings to inform a scaled approach in the future, where it's not just 3 creators and 3 products, but it's hundreds of products. And the way in which you shop is not just in Walmart Discovered, but it's elsewhere on the Roblox platform. So there's a lot, I think, that allowed us to sort of get to a place where we're like, this feels right. And the initial data suggests that like people are interested. And I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible, which is exciting to me.
You might be drinking your Kool-Aid, but I agree. I saw in particular, e.l.f. was, I think, the first beauty brand to unlock that real world commerce. Can you give a little bit of a taste into how you decided some of the partners and products that you were going to collaborate with? Because I can assume it was a very heavily collaborative process.
Yeah, so the products that are featured in Walmart Discovered, so the first products that we went out with were driven by this notion of like, first and foremost, what is our learning agenda? This is an internal process that I do with my team for everything we do. What is our learning agenda? What is it that we want to learn with everything that we do? It could literally be, we're going to use an exclamation point versus not use an exclamation point. But by using an exclamation point, what do we learn and how does that inform a future state? With this particular introduction of real world commerce in the platform, our first foray was like, let's test products that are across different price points that align with various, again, social trends or our best-selling products online. That first launch, the biggest feedback that we got from our community, and our community, I would say, is a community that's active in our experience. They're active in our Discord channel, but they're also creating content organically on X and on YouTube and on TikTok. And collectively, all of what we were able to gather suggested that the price points of the products that we introduced were too high. And so with our second drop, all of the products that we introduced were less than $10. And so that stemmed from community feedback, and that stemmed from that learning agenda of let's test a broad assortment of products. The best-selling product was the lowest priced product for our particular first drop. It was the towel tumbler, which, great tumbler, I bought one in case you're in the need of a tumbler. So we got some great learnings, again, that informed our second drop. With the e.l.f. partnership, we looked to identify a partner in partnership with Roblox that has a community forward experience on the platform. e.l.f. Up is a community forward experience. It's beloved by the community. It's also highly rated. They're, as a brand, embracing the platform and doing a lot of really cool and innovative things. And so to us, they were the right partner to basically take the real world commerce opportunity to, again, in partnership with Roblox, and basically say like, this is new. Do you want to test it? Of course they said yes. And it sort of like brought the fact that like Walmart is a distributor of e.l.f. Beauty, which maybe Gen Z didn't even know. Now they do, but they can also now buy it in Roblox. And so it allowed for them and us to just educate, again, this next generation of consumers on a platform that they're spending time, that they love, that they trust, that Walmart is a brand that doesn't just have everything. We have your thing. And if you're in e.l.f. Up, maybe it's great that you now know that Walmart has e.l.f. products and they're everyday low price, meaning you're going to get great e.l.f. products at a great price. So it was a fun launch. And I think like, again, like the initial data suggests that like people are really interested in this. And again, I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible in terms of commerce on the platform.
Justin, I want to get your take on something which I think is very related to what you're talking about. I was at an event, I'm going to say it's 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to a senior marketer at a beauty brand. And I was relaying the fact, because we recently had, I hope you don't take offense, one of your competitors starts with an A, ends with an N, on. And one of the things that they said on the show was that they have one of the largest
competitors.
Zero competitors. But they said that they had one of the largest digital databases of product 3D scans because they scan everything that comes in. And I brought this up to a marketer. She said, we are so behind on this, right? She just said, even though we do our product design, even though we make a ton of products, we are not thinking enough about the digital 3D aspect of our product because we're not future-proofing what happens when immersive commerce comes along. And so I was just thinking through the lens of Walmart has physical stores. Those get designed in CAD programs and architected. You have physical products which have to go on websites and or have to go into these digital 3D worlds. I think part of just preparing for the future is thinking about 3D space for your physical products and then allows you guys the opportunity then to say, what could we do now? Whether it's a great partnership with Elf, oh, now that we have a 3D product, what can we do? And we have a 3D environment, what can we do? Like, I think there's something that like just feels like we're on the cusp of environments can exist in multi-planes. And I don't know if that sparks anything for you, but I think that is something that
Yeah.
folks like yourself really helped to pioneer.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I'm sure your conversation with that A&N was fabulous. I'll have to give it a listen. But I think like it's a good segue into Walmart Realm, which is an immersive commerce destination that we launched just a little over a month and a half ago. So it's relatively new. It's an owned and operated destination. It is truly delivering on this notion of immersive commerce. So it is a 360-degree virtual environment. It's the first ever social trend-driven immersive commerce experience with products that are represented as 3D products that are curated by influencers and creators. So that same notion of what we delivered on in Walmart Discovered, of we partnered with Roblox creators, the names and faces of people that the Roblox community looked to for inspiration. We brought that to life digitally with Walmart Realm and tapped creators and influencers. So again, the names and faces of people that Gen Z is looking to on Instagram and TikTok for inspiration around beauty products and decor products and fashion products, to basically bring them into this truly 360 immersive environment where customers can come in and can see products represented within a social trend that maybe, like, I don't know if you guys have heard of Beyonce and her country album, but one of the social trends that we leaned into, right, is this social trend that combines country western with like this gothic aesthetic. So we've created the alternative, which is this 3D immersive commerce experience where you're seeing beauty, fashion, and home products represented in ways that maybe you never thought was possible. And it really delivers on what I said earlier, the notion of how do we shorten the distance between inspiration and commerce? And so when you're coming into these social driven environments and you're experiencing the alternative, you're experiencing this country western social trend, it completely changes your mindset of like what you might want, what you might need. And I think like with what we built with Walmart Realm, it's again like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. And while Walmart Realm today is a browser-based experience that's accessible on a desktop computer or a laptop computer or a mobile device, it is the foundation of a wearable. So as Apple Vision becomes more widely used and more affordable, we have built something that is inherently ready to be turned on for that type of device. And so it's inherently accessible today because it's how people are experiencing these types of things, but it's built for the future. And we're testing and learning early so that when we optimize for that future state, we've already got the learnings to hopefully introduce something that feels native to that experience and is also the best immersive commerce shopping experience that's in market. So I am a believer of 3D products as well. I can't speak to the number of 3D products that we have, but I know that we have probably a lot.
More than 3.
And we're, again, envisioning them and bringing them to life. Yeah, more than 3. Bringing them to life in an immersive commerce environment with Walmart Realm.
It's really cool to hear about that, Justin. You've talked a lot about sort of the community and you refer to them as influencers. I feel like people use creator and influencer a little bit interchangeably at times. I'd love to sort of unpack how you work with creators in these different experiences. You know, is there a specific way that you like to partner with the sort of voices in these platforms and various media makers? Do you all have does that feed into your learning agenda?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it 100% does. I mean, like, and I said this earlier, like one of the things that we've learned is that what we've done with the Roblox community is probably not going to translate to the Minecraft community or to the Fortnite community, right? Because they're just different. Like what they experience on the platform is inherently different because each of these platforms is just different. It's different for a user, it's different for a brand, it's different from a developer standpoint. And so as we think about these communities that we're engaging with and how we can engage with them and how they feed into what we're doing, there is a learning agenda around each of those respective things. So for example, with Walmart Discovered on Roblox, we are partnering with creators. When I say creator, what I mean is a Roblox creator, somebody that is creating virtual items, or UGC. That's the terminology that's used in the platform. So a Roblox creator that's creating UGC, and we're partnering with them and we're saying, hey, we would love to partner with you to create UGC that we will give away to the broader community through in-experience quests and games and special challenges. But what's great is that, one, they're getting compensated, but we're also giving them a platform to be discovered. So we're not working with like the biggest creators for everything. We're working with creators that have like the most popular cardigans. And we're partnering with them to create a cardigan for the fall or winter release that we have on the calendar. And so we're being very intentional about who we're partnering with so that it feels mutually beneficial. Again, they're being compensated. This is a true partnership. We're making sure that everyone feels respected and as though they're being represented correctly. But with Walmart Realm, it's different in the sense that we are building this owned and operated destination. This is a true Walmart branded owned and operated destination. And the way in which we're partnering with the community here is we're looking at, okay, Walmart Realm has 3 social trends in its infancy state. Who are the individuals that are a part of this social community that authentically and meaningfully align with these social trends, who are excited to be a part of something that's new? Because this is not something where it's just like, we want you to promote a pair of jeans or to promote a particular tumbler. It is, we want you to help tell the story about Walmart Realm, because it is new and it requires a little bit of storytelling. And so I think with the community that we're hoping to build with Walmart Realm and the influencers and creators that we're partnering in this instance are those that are building their own communities respectively on Instagram or TikTok. And they're helping tell that story of Walmart Realm and bringing their communities in to shop these immersive commerce experiences featuring products that they chose. And of course, they're talking and featuring these products in their content. So it feels like a very through line of like from social to immersive to digital, and everything is weaved together nicely. But yeah, I think each platform has just a different community, and the way in which we're using them is just, it's different based on what platform we're trying to engage with.
Justin, I'm interested in how you think of new environments to go into. You know, I was thinking about back the other day about there was like 36 hours that we were all interested in Air Chat, which was like supposed to be the new Clubhouse, and then that completely went away. But I also know that you guys, like, you went hard at CES this year, which I've done a lot of activation at CES. I think it's always a really untapped opportunity to both tell a technology story, but also there's like so much press there that it's a consumer play. And I believe you guys were showing like everything from like robotics to some of the 3D like AR stuff you were doing. But like thinking about how to align with an event like a CES or an Art Basel or an All-Star game, like what's the thought process? And then how did the CES experience deliver on what you think the perspective of Walmart is within both an advertising, a technology, and then a consumer audience?
You know, it's crazy to me that like there are people that think of Walmart exclusively as a brick and mortar store. It's what people know of Walmart because it's probably the most familiar thing to them. And it's also a part of their routine. They're going to their local Walmart every Saturday to buy groceries, or they're going to Walmart to buy a new tent to go camping. Like whatever it is, like for a lot of people, their experience with Walmart over an extended period of time has been with a brick and mortar location. It's been their local Walmart that has helped them through X, Y, and Z, or again, is a part of their weekly ritual from a grocery standpoint, or is where they're going to buy a camping tent to go camping. I think something like CES allowed for Walmart to showcase that we are an adaptive retailer. We are moving at the speed of retail, and we are basically leveraging new technology, and we're leveraging new ways of engagement to provide our customers with the best experience that they can have with our brand, be it digitally, be it physically, because we're using technology in stores to make the in-store experience better, through things like Walmart Discovered on Roblox, where that wasn't a topic of conversation at CES, but is delivering on this notion of like, we are an adaptive retailer and we are adapting to meet customers where they are online, to shorten that distance between inspiration and commerce, and use technology to make that experience for our customers better, faster, more seamless. And so I think CES was a great platform for the executive team to showcase all of this amazing work that is so behind the scenes and under the hood that you might not have known had you not had the opportunity to hear about this or that from our executive team. And I think like what you highlighted makes a lot of sense. And so it was a great platform. And I think like it did a really good job of positioning us as like innovative and adaptive, and hopefully gets people to think about us beyond the store.
But I think something that, again, smart marketers know is also showing up in the unexpected gets press, gets social. Like, we shouldn't discount the fact that changing the conversation around Walmart
Mhm.
being just a brick and mortar store is about doing innovative marketing, like building a large installation at CES. And that shouldn't be also not looked at that, yes, we are innovative and we want to tell the world, but also doing that unexpected, and still the word of mouth and talk value and press value is an essential part of building a marketing plan.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think when you have moments of, wow, this is Walmart, we're like, oh my God, I can't believe Walmart is doing this. That is such a win. And sometimes that's a headline. And so for us, I mean, I think like we're never out there doing things solely for the purpose of a headline or solely for the purpose of an award. It is always, what is the insight that's driving the why, the what, the how, the where, the when, and how do we deliver on that insight in a way where we're actually adding value to the community we're looking to engage with, to the platform we're showing up on, so that our intentions are actually like meaningful. And when I think you do it in a way that is insight driven and meaningful, it drives the headlines, it drives the awards, it drives the results that you want to see. And I think we've been fortunate to, at least in the last year, be in a place where it feels like the efforts that we put a lot of time and effort into are paying off. And hopefully the learnings that we have from them will continue to reap great benefits in the future.
So, beyond just the awards, Justin, because you have been featured in many of these things, I know you're an industry leader on sort of the topic of innovation in a number of different places, including on the Ad Council's Emerging Tech Council, where AI has been a very big topic. We've spent a lot of this podcast talking about your virtual world explorations, or some might call it metaverse. How are you thinking about how generative AI is like plays into all of this? Roblox has obviously invested really significantly here
Mhm.
from a sort of like UGC building capability. As a brand, how are you all thinking about either infusing that into some of your virtual commerce experiences or using it in other fun ways?
Yeah, I mean, I think like there, as you both know, like I think that there's just so many different use cases for AI, and I think we're seeing brands use it for brand marketing campaigns. We're seeing brands use it under the hood from like a supply chain management standpoint. And so I think like there are a lot of people across Walmart that are sort of doing their due diligence to understand like what is the opportunity or opportunities for Walmart as it relates to AI. And how do we make sure that when we introduce AI, we're introducing it in a way that, again, feels very additive and meaningful? And so as we think about the opportunities from a front end standpoint and a back end standpoint, one of the things that I have very much appreciated about Walmart's approach to AI is that we're not just rushing to the finish line to say, like, we're doing AI, because I think you would both agree where AI is today is very different from where it was a year ago. Where AI will be in a year is probably very different from where it is today. And so there are a lot of people across Walmart internally looking at, well, what are the greatest opportunities and how do we make sure that when we leverage AR, we're doing so in a way that feels truly additive and meaningful. And so I have no doubt that you'll see something from us soon. It's just a matter of like making sure that when it rolls out in a way that feels right, not rushed, because I think we've seen some rushing from some people where maybe it didn't do what it was intended to do. It has to then be rolled back. I think it's something that like we want to do safely in a smart way. And so more to come on that. But yeah, I think it's an exciting time. And again, I think like in a year, it's going to be very different than what it is today.
All right. Well, right, not rushed is definitely the theme of anyone working in emerging technology. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. Justin, thank you for spending the time with us today. It was so great seeing
Yeah.
you in Texas. So great having you here. We're really looking forward to paying attention to what you guys are doing, because I do think that you're bringing innovation to the forefront in such a mass way. Walmart touches so many people around the world that I'm sure it's like it has to be so intentional with how you do this. But you guys seem to be like delivering on that, which I think is really impressive to watch. So thank you for sharing your insights with us today.
Thanks for having me. It was great to see you both.
Hit after hit. Justin, so nice to see you. Thank you for sharing, a little bit about your journey, and in particular the things you've learned to sort of get to the place that you are now across several of these platforms. Really interesting, and can't wait to see more right not rushed from you and the team at Walmart.
Cool. Good to see you both. Yeah, thanks for having me.
What did you think of Justin's insights?
I love Justin. I love his energy. I love like the insights he brings. I think that all the experimentation they do at Walmart. I think people frankly write off Walmart as not being innovative because they are so used to it being just the retailer around the corner that like has been so dominant over the last couple of decades. But I think they are continuing to evolve their brand and their experience in ways that are super meaningful. So I was really glad that we got to touch on those with Justin. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think that people underestimate Walmart. One, just like how big Walmart is. Like people in the business world know, but like it's a massive company that has so many different divisions and parts and pieces. And, Justin sort of touched on this, but like to me, as Walmart's big opportunity, it's like this idea of like digital commerce. You and I are both huge believers in the idea of like digital items, virtual items, and they're on their journey to testing into this type of thing already and starting to build that relationship with the Gen Alpha audience and to a certain extent Gen Z. So I think it's really impressive. And Justin's got a great attitude about the whole thing. He had a lot of little nuggets of wisdom in this. So it was amazing to have him as a guest.
I agree. And I also think there's something that we shouldn't discount, which is at the size that Walmart is and the reach that they have, you asked them about their creator perspective. And I think that Walmart has the opportunity to really transform and make some of these creators into semi-household names. And I think that is something that like pays a lot of dividends if they're doing their curatorial work well. To say who are the people who are developing interesting products, who are the creators that are, he mentioned cardigans, right? Who are the folks in fashion who like we should be paying attention to because they can like change lives that way. And I think there's something really lovely about that opportunity that they have, and doing it with meaning is something that I respond really well to.
And they're partnering with the right brands too. I mean, Elf has been a leader in the Roblox space. They have Elf Up. So I think really smart alignment on both creators, on other brands. And he touched on this a bit, but this sort of like data-driven perspective, social insight led, that helps them identify the right partners to bring into it, because so much of Roblox is about partnerships, it's about community, it's about collaborations. And their first foray there, I think there was a lot of learnings, and they've converted those learnings into something that's positive. And instead of like running away from it, they actually ran towards it. And I think that's really hard to do as a brand. In my experience working with a lot of these big brands, is if they get negative feedback, they kind of want to bury it sometimes because it's like a negative PR message. Oh, it didn't land, it didn't work. And how Justin talked about like he was reading all the comments, and I'm sure feeling a lot of this for himself. And he actually used that as fuel to create the next better experience instead of being like, we don't want to be here yet, or this isn't the place for us.
Absolutely. All right, Avery, let's wrap it up. Thank you, Gen Z, as always, for listening. Looking forward to a bunch of great guests coming, and hoping you're staying cool this summer because in New York, it is very hot.
See you next time, Gen Z.